So, you're a man with style, a man who owns a pistol that looks vintage with a suppressor, and you just walked out of a rather nice jumbo or Learjet. Something that looks professional. You must be a spy. So what car would any spy have? Yeah. The ultimate classic. A James Bond ripoff. Or in other words, the JB200. The JB700. This is pretty much a classic reproduction of an Aston Martin DB5. Unfortunately, as you can see right here, it has these two rather disgustingly ugly machine guns popping out the front, which doesn't quite really go with the aesthetic, because especially they don't bloody work, especially in the multiplayer. But is it a good car to drive? Well, here's the problem. It isn't a good car to drive. In theory, you should have a car that looks beautiful and frankly deserves any young girl's attention. This car frankly looks like a joke. Okay, it looks like a rough estimation of a DB5, but it also has one of the problems the DB5 had. Its speed. We're barely hitting 100 on the speedometer. This car might look good, but is it any good to drive? I'd say no. But it does have that style about it that most other cars in the game don't have. Let's face it. You won't see many cars that look this good. Oh, and by the way, please only buy it in silver if you're going to try anything like this. And also, you can have it armoured reasonably cheaply. I do feel that this car has some flaws. Especially when the door doesn't seem to want to close. The engine sounds perfect for the time period. Almost sounds like a Spitfire going down the runway. Which it is going down the runway at the moment. But one of the big problems I have with this car is that it doesn't have quite the same panache as other cars have. It doesn't have the power to back up the looks. It can only go 100, and it takes a solid age to get there. Let me show you. Let me get to the other end of the runway. Handling wise, for a rear wheel drive car, it's not half bad. I have seen worse cars. Ooh. And it does dent easily, sort of lowering its looks. Now, let's give it a fair test. Back it right up. There we go. Now, let's get into the cockpit. Currently at 0. Let's get going. And third gear. Fourth gear. Fifth gear, and all I'm seeing is 100 to the runway. Yeah, that was the entire length of that runway, and all I could get up to was 100. That pretty much says one thing about this car. It doesn't go very fast. Doesn't go like the Bond cars do. And in actual fact, the game has actually done something quite clever there. Let me show you something. In the car listings for the legendary James Bond car, the JB700 decommissioned, it says it can go 140 miles an hour. That is a lie. A out and out lie. Because in reality it can only go 100. In actual fact, the original James Bond car that you saw in the classic film Goldfinger didn't have the correct top speed either. The top speed quoted isn't the actual speed the car can go at. So, they have got that right in the game. So, is this car worth your weight, its weight in gold? Well, there's one final test I want to do. I recently got into a car chase after killing a pursuer. So, can I get out of it in this classic DB5 that's rather wrecked? Well, let's see, shall we? See if the speed, the maneuverability and the handling can get me out of the cops. I must admit I do only have 1 star, so it's not much of a test. Ah, now I have 2. So it is a bit more of a test. And anyway, I want to go to the shop so I can rob it. Repairing a car like this is not cheap. Handling when you're using the handbrake in this is rather good. It doesn't oversteer as much as some other cars do. And also I've added armour to this car to give myself a little bit more of a chance than just a snifter in hells. Oh, and there you get to see the beautiful 4-litre engine. And the rear of it. I've got to admit, the engine in this car does look beautiful. Unfortunately, I feel that GTA 5 have given themselves a bit of a mistake with not allowing you to open up the bonnet for just no reason. It'd be nice to do that. The Rozzers are on my case again. Unfortunately, I cannot... Oh, that was my mistake, not the cars, and... Yes, I've got to give that to the car. It wasn't the car's fault on that one. Let me go and sort this out.
8 hours later.
So, after getting my car back from the police, I've got to make some money. So, I've put my little bit of a GPS onto a grocery store that I can rob. Or a 7-Eleven as you people call it. Keeping a car like this in tip-top shape costs money, you know, so... Especially when you've given it armour. The one thing I have to say about the raw JB700 decommissioned is that the brakes are awful on this. Well, just look. Well, that didn't particularly actually do particularly badly, but... time to raid a convenience store.
You're going to buy something? Yes?
Yes, 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 yes. I think I'll take a E-Cola, another E-Cola.
Ah, there you go. No, don't hurt me. I have a family.
Get down!
Fine. Just
My DB5 ripoff costs a lot of money to maintain.
shouting. I am not deaf.
I am not shouting. I am talking at a normal volume. You are the one who is shouting.
Okay, okay. I'm going as fast as I can. I hope you sleep well tonight.
What the... Really? I have no idea what the hell that was about. But let's see if we can get away from the cops using the DB5 or the JB700, aka the DB5 ripoff. Oh no! The one thing about this car is that its acceleration is compromised comparatively to other cars of its relative cost. You're better off spending relatively the same amount of money for something like a Comet, which is basically a rather good rip-off of the Porsche 911 Turbo. Compared to the DB5, doesn't quite work. This car has a lot of advantages compared to a car you can pick off the street. Yes, it's got a lovely looks, it's got a lovely driving style. It can oversteer a little. You can get a little bit of oversteer, which can cause you problems, but I'm in one of these spots again, aren't I? It can go it gets to 100, but it takes its sweet time doing it. That's the only problem. And it is easy to control at speed, but turning at speed, I wouldn't try it. And you can easily lose control like that. It can happen, so be aware of it. Even though you have a lovely engine block to look at, minus the lights if you're trying to get a look at the engine. The other problem is it does oversteer a little on turns. It really doesn't know. The car's chassis is from the 60s. It was the original car this is based on is a classic, but it handles like a tank. It doesn't have the handling characteristics that you see in the Bond films. Even though it is a classic, it's something that, frankly, I wouldn't want to drive. I'd rather drive a newer Aston Martin, maybe the DBS, or the 177, or the one... I can never remember that number of that car. It's the it is the hypercar that Aston made. That is something that has better handling than the classic DB5. And to Rockstar's credit, they have pretty much recreated the handling characteristics of the DB5 in this car perfectly. It handles like a tank without any flaw. DB5s weren't meant to do that. It can go around tight corners, as you saw, but don't expect the paintwork to be in the same place when you do it. I especially enjoy No, I'm a DB5 doing a review. Sod off. I do feel that the car doesn't look anywhere near correct in any other colour but silver. You cannot have this car in bright yellow. If I see somebody in this car in bright yellow on GTA, I will hunt you down. I don't care if I have to buy a PS4, I will hunt you down. And I will kill you. I will use this micro SMG to basically obliterate you. And yes, I have just got, and here we go, here's the money. 1,716. Not a bad day's work, really. Better than killing Blofeld. Takes less time. Now, is the JB700 worth your time? If you want a classic car in your collection, there might be other ones that are better. But if you want a classic British car that has a nice style, a lovely engine sound, but handles like nothing on earth, I'd go for this car. Would I recommend it for a heist? Hell no. I don't think even if you have this fully upgraded, you would get a good car. You get a reasonable car, yes, but not a good car. Just to bash around in, this car is good. To do anything reasonable like heists or missions in, I wouldn't even bother, because it has nothing compared to any other car you can pick up on the street. This, which I'm about to nick, could outperform that. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. I'll take the VW Golf riff off home. See ya! Oh, bollocks.